Oh, did I actually switch screens? Oh, sorry. We're just having a little bit of technical issues. Wacom drivers are being difficult, and there we go. Now we should be up and running. Perfect. Hi. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of 3D Bootcamp. I hope you're all ready. Today we're mixing it up a little bit because we are using we are going to be sculpting today instead of modeling a barrel, which will be cool. And we did a little thing on our Instagram to figure out what creatures we were going to be making today's dragon out of, and we figured out we were going to do capybara. We got some surprise looks from in here. We're going to be working with the capybara, and then we are going to be moving in some other animals from here and there. I really liked, when I did my mock-up, I really liked doing an elephant, giving it like big tusks. That looked cool, and we'll see if we can get some horns in there and stuff like that as well. So, I hope everybody is doing well at home. Welcome to. Yeah, just sit and get ready a little bit. Where are y'all from? Oh, and while, of course, we buffer that and get that ready, my name is Chelfe. I am a teacher here at CADA, Trumax, and today, well, assistant teacher mostly, but I am the main teacher in things like Unreal and how that whole thing works. I also have experience with virtual production, and in my spare time, I teach at the university in Riga, and I design miniatures for a company called Drobniercast. Welcome to Nora, and you're from Denmark. Wonderful. So, from Poland. Oh, that's very nice. Oh, let me just hide that. It's very, very nice. My wife is from Poland, actually, so. Yeah. All right. So, today we'll be sculpting. I'm sitting in ZBrush Core Mini. It is a smaller version of ZBrush, but still very powerful for concepting and sculpting biological objects. We're just going to go through the controls a little bit first, and then we are going to start actually sculpting afterwards. So I'm just going to put two small dots here so you can see how I navigate. Boop, boop. So if you grab anywhere in the gray area and left click, and then you can drag around, then you can, orbit and look at everything inside your scene. You can also do this if you are right-clicking, and that right-click will work anywhere. So sometimes we'll be zoomed all the way in, there's no gray area. then we can still right-click and spin things around. It's good and fun. And if we want to zoom, if you're sitting on a mouse, you have, oh, no, it's bound differently in Core Mini. So, doesn't matter. If you want to zoom, it's Control, left-click, or Control and right-click. And you can like snap to specific views. Use this little man up here on the top to guide you. If you hold down Shift and right and or left click. And Alt to move around like this, to like pan. So this is actually, while it looks like we're panning, what we're actually doing is we're moving what would be called the 3D canvas inside of ZBrush Core Mini. So, all right. So that is our basic movement and navigation inside ZBrush Core Mini. Let me just reset mine. There we go. We're from the front. As we can see, by default, we have symmetry on. You can turn this off by pressing X on your keyboard. To start with, it's a really good idea to have on just because it will make sure that we have some of that bilateral symmetry that biology really likes. So we'll be working with symmetry in the beginning, and then when we get further into it, we'll get symmetry off so we can get some asymmetry in there. All right. One final thing before we start, that is ZBrush has something called perspective view, which sounds really nice, but isn't very good. So we want to turn it off to start with by pressing P, or this little square up in the upper right-hand corner. Upper right-hand corner. Up here. So, all right. So out here on the left-hand side, we have around about 12 tools, and we'll get through all of them during today. But we should start out from where we, like when we sculpt, we start a very specific place, and that is with the Move tool. The reason why we start with the Move tool is we want to get those basic shapes of a head down. Now, I'm going for a capybara, so I have on my second monitor here, I have capybaras that I can look and see what their heads look like, because I want to get that general square head look to it, and I'm going to use the Move tool to achieve that. So yeah, so I'm going to get just about from the side of my model, select my Move tool, and then press S on my keyboard. This will allow me to change the size of my brush. It'll bring up this little slider, and this will change the size of my brush. All right. And then I am just going to start dragging out the front end of my sphere, because I want this to get that square look, but I want it to be a little bit rounded at the top. There we go. Oh, we got an accidental button. That happens to the best of us. And what I'm doing is I'm just defining the basic shapes, because that's really, when you start off in your ZBrush sculpt, it is so easy to like get carried away and wanting to go straight into the details. But those basic shapes, those basic like form is so very, very important, because if we don't have that from the start, all the details will not really matter, because the silhouette's off, the shape is off, and we want to get that shape right. So when we sculpt, when we work in 3D, we tend to want to define the basic shapes first, the silhouettes, and then go in and start doing. Music is annoying. Do we have music on, guys? Sorry, we're on a new computer. Oh. Oh, was that my tabs? Sorry, that was completely my issue. My fault. I am very, very sorry. Thank you, Mito. I am, of course, assisted by my Christian and my beautiful assistants, Christian and Mito. They are sitting with me as always, and Mito will be joining me for conversations later.
Hi, that's me. I'm Mito.
That's Mito. Alright. So, just gonna really get that square capybara look to everything that we want. As you can see, I'm leaving this part sort of why do I have another desktop as you do? I don't know. So yeah, as you can see here, I'm leaving sort of a space out here for, I'm gonna extrude a jaw out so we can have its mouth open. But to do that, we need to make sure that we have basic shape of the top of the head, and we're just gonna get this out later. So Kim, you're saying you have a different desktop than I have. Are you sitting in the trial version of full ZBrush? Because that is what I'm guessing would be the biggest change. To this. And yeah. Alright. I actually want a bit more at the back of the head. I want to take it out a little bit here. So you can see I'm just going around, I'm tweaking. I like, and this changes from person to person. Alright, you're sitting in the, so I'm sitting in the free version of ZBrush. So Kim in the chat is saying that his layout was looking different. That's because he's sitting in the trial version of the full ZBrush. We are sitting currently in ZBrush Core Mini, which is a free version of ZBrush, but with a bunch of limitations to it. And the reason for this is it's free. We don't want anybody who is unsure if they want to do 3D. We don't want them to go out and spend money on either ZBrush Core, which is a smaller version of ZBrush, or use the trial version and then get annoyed that they can only have, like, what is it, 7 days, 6 days, something like that. Yeah. When they want to work more on it. So we opted in for ZBrush Core Mini. Of course, I use ZBrush in my free time and in professional life, and we teach in full ZBrush. We have licenses for the school and stuff like that. So don't worry too much about that if you are interested. Yeah. So as I was saying before that, as you can see, I'm using a lot of small movements, a lot of small tweaks here and there to get things where I want them to be. And some people like doing bigger movements, really pulling out a lot of geometry and meshes. I prefer to do like small tweaks because that also means I can undo fairly quickly without losing everything. Like if I make one big movement, but I liked some of it, and I undo, well, I lose all of it. So, Kim, if you want to get to your move brush, it's BMV, and that will give you your move brush. All right. Just gonna make the back of the head a little bit bigger here. Still keeping like sort of a cranial shape. Yeah. All right. So that's the basic head. There are still things I want to do. So every brush inside ZBrush has what's called an alternate function. And that also means the move brush has an alternate function. So if we hold down Alt on our keyboard and then try to use our move brush here, you can see it's, instead of allowing me to freely move everywhere, it takes the direction of where I put my pointer, and then it only moves back and forth in that direction. So I'm going to use this to just pull out the jaws just a little bit so that they're sticking out a little bit more, because I want to take these and I want to pull them back so you really get that bony jaw line that you'll see in most rodents. And that is because a capybara is a rodent. It's the world's biggest rodent, actually. And this has a two-purpose thing. First of all, jawlines are cool. They look good. They help add definition to the face. It's what, when we sculpt, we call bony landmarks. So places where the bone will be so close to the skin that they will be visible. You generally have them on your elbows. You have them in your forehead, your cheekbones, your jawline. And these are really nice places to get defined early, because your muscles generally tend to lay down around them instead of on them. All right, let's go like that. All right, so as you can see, I'm just checking my model. And we really, when we're doing this, and it might seem like I'm spending a lot of time on it, that is really to emphasize that we need to spend as much time on this as possible. Because if we don't get our basic shapes down quickly, or not quickly, but first, everything else after that doesn't matter. All right, so I've made a mess of this whole eye area. And in case you want to, I don't know, get rid of a mess, but it's very far back in your history, you can hold down Shift. You can see your circle, your reticule turns orange. And that's because our brush has now turned into a smooth brush. Now ain't that lovely? So that means we can sort of reset a lot of things on our model. It also absolutely eats every bit of detail you got, but and you won't have this problem, Kim, because you don't have Sculptress Pro on by default. So, but yeah, this will absolutely, the smooth brush will just eat through your details. So it's kind of dangerous to use, just a little bit. All right. And then let's look here. Still needed to be square, but actually needed to be a bit smaller here and there. All right. Okay. Now I'm just going to define where I want my eyes, and again, holding down Alt and just making a bit of a circle in. So this is this is where I want my eyes. Let's try some other things. And because we're working digitally, like if we were doing this with clay, we'd have to be real certain of where we're placing those eyes, because if we aren't, we have to fill them back in, smooth that out, and then we can try again. Here we can press Ctrl Z to undo, and we can just try again. So use the strengths of the medium we're working with to try things out. Really, really, really try things out. See, does that look good? No. Does that look good? No. What about something smaller? No. Okay, well, let's give it a little bit of an eyebrow and see if that helps. You can even shape it a little bit to help along. Don't hate that. All right. All right. So let's get on to that lower jaw. I'm going to grab the middle here. I'm going to start just grabbing this down, down, down. Now, of course, it's going to come out very blobby like this, but don't worry, we'll shape it in afterwards, because this is what we do. This is what we like to do. And again, we have these stretches and stuff like that. At this stage, it's not really important. Don't worry too much about it. But if it bothers you so much, you can always just go in and smooth it out. And I'm going to create the mouth cavity here. I'm going to shape this jaw a little bit better. And when I say better, I'm just saying before it was very thin, and I want a bit more of a jawline here. And this actually needs to be fairly straight if I remember correctly. And we can just smooth out. I don't know what this is called, like it is your cheeks on human beings, but like the skin between cheeks and mouth on other creatures. It has a specific name. So like that. Let's move this in a little bit. Just the bottom, don't want the top, just want the lower jaw to be smaller like this. There, really got that screaming rodent feel to it now. You just make the nostrils. I did that again, just the Alt function. I have not moved away from my move brush yet, because there's been no reason to yet. And we've already, if you've been following along, we've already gotten something that resembles at least a creature with its mouth open, and we will always just work from here, get more and more and more and more and more. There you go. Creating a bit more of that mouth cavity for us to work with. Just gonna smooth that out a little bit, smooth that out a little bit. Yep. All right. And just because it adds a little bit of extra understanding and depth to a bust like this, I'm just gonna pull out the backside here and like make the neck that you would, if you had a bust, you would plant this on a pillar or palanquin. Yeah. But it also just leaves us a bit more room to play with if we want to add spines, details, stuff like, or add spines, scales, fur, stuff like that. It's just very nice to have this little bit because you can really add a little bit of definition. And even with this little bit I've done, because, for example, I've given mine a very stubby neck, it gives sort of the feel of a more robust, chunky dragon instead of a long, sleek one. And I would wholly encourage to experiment around with that. Try making long necks, try making short necks, try giving it this little bump of a shoulder here. That will also add, like, it looks more muscular when you do that. And before you're thinking like, well, I don't know all of this anatomy, how the hell am I supposed to work with this? No, you don't need to specifically know anatomy. You just need to make it believable. And what that means is you just need to make whoever's looking at it, who also doesn't know anatomy, because the average person doesn't know a lot of anatomy, believe that this would work. You don't want to make a realistic dragon. You want to make the viewer of that dragon believe that that dragon will work. All right, let me just look at some capybaras. Wow, they really just have the roundest nostrils in the world. So I guess this is fine. Maybe actually make our brush a bit bigger, pull them out a little bit. This has to be smaller. This has to be bigger. This is thinner. And like, this is, again, if I had started detailing now, and now I'm starting to look at my reference instead of chat, that means if I had started detailing and I then went into this angle and said, that doesn't look like a capybara, what the hell have I been drinking? That then means whenever I move things, I'm going to stretch out all my details. I'm going to ruin the definitions I've created, all because I didn't check my reference. So check references. When you're building even fantasy creatures, make sure you have references, because fantasy creatures tend to be built upon real creatures. Like dragons are like generally just snakes with legs. a lot of the time. There we go. Think we're reaching fairly good level of capybara here. Front profile's a little bit off. I think that will be helped by moving the eyes a bit down, a bit in, going like this. No. Want to keep that chunky look at the sides. All right. And then just moving it out. So I'm just trying out a few things here, and that is a good idea. Like I've said multiple times, try things out. Try things out. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna add a little bit of heft to the throat, make it a little bit chunky. There we go. Boop, 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 boop. Like now it looks like it has a gizzard, which isn't a bad thing. That is wholly a good thing. A gizzard's like a throat sac that holds things. And if you have a dragon who likes to steal gold and burn towns, then it's a good thing to have a gizzard, because that means that gizzard can hold all the gold, so you don't have to fly with it in your giant hands. All right. So I'm just going to create these two small nodules in here inside the mouth, because this is where the tusks from the elephant are going to come out. And for that, I'm actually also going to move out the cheeks a little bit, just so we have the room for it. And yeah. So one final thing before we move on to tusks, I want to add in the ears. So even though elephants have such adorable and like recognizable ears, so do capybaras, and I honestly think a capybara's ears are better suited for this design, because they're like these tiny square things. They're just absolutely amazing. It also leaves more space for horns and stuff, so that's nice, because horns are always good. There we go. All right, so let's get these tusks out. And to make these, we could, but I wouldn't recommend it, use the move tool and pull them out like this, but as you can see, this becomes very segmented and not in a way that gets easy to smooth out. Instead, next to the move tool, we have something called the snake hook. Now this functions basically like the move tool, except it will create new geometry for you. And when I say new geometry, let me just Shift F. This is what I mean. This is our base geometry here. This is what everything looked like when we were just moving it around. As soon as we use the smooth brush, we create more geometry in the shape of these triangles that, if I remember correctly, are called vertexels, which is a weird mix of terminology, but there you go. And I can show you here, hold down Shift. This will create new geometry for me. But we tend to want to stay as low poly as possible for as long as possible. So we don't want to create this in places we don't use it. We just want to create it in places we do use it. So that is also what our snake hook brush will do. So if I pull out here, and this can be a bit weird and funny to get angled correctly, because we need to be able to see those nodules to pull them out, but we don't want to hit the cheeks. We want to keep this border between them. So you have to get them out of the mouth. There you go. Before you can really work too much with them. There you go. And now I'm just going to up the size of my brush, not too much, because then it's going to start, yeah, do it like that. That's what we don't want. Do. And they will come out fairly flat. And of course they're 3D, So when I say flat here, I actually mean they're going to come out and be a little bit straight, a little bit too straight for what like digital or what realistic biology would allow. So we want to create a bit more than that. Boop, 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 boop. And the way we'll do that is we'll go in and we'll shape it afterwards. But we have a problem now, and that is if we move this too much, we'll actually delete a lot of geometry here. So we're just going to ruin everything to make it easier for ourselves. Above the move brush, out on your left-hand side, you have the inflate brush. If you use this, it'll just inflate what you have. Look here, it's not creating any new geometry, it's just inflating what you already have. Now, with all this inflation happening, we can go back to our snake hook and we can actually start pulling this out, because it does recognize this inflation as being proper geometry, and it allows us to shape it a lot more. So we will just use this in combination with the snake hook to shape the tusks of our Cappy dragon. And I would say like shape them as elephant mammothy as you want. You can also have them fairly straight. Like I know Warhammer has like these pigs where the teeth are pretty much straight for the first 30 centimeters and then they start curving. So you can definitely add as much or as little curvature as you want. You also don't need to follow along what I do. You can just listen to my voice and take in some good advice about these things. Just gonna try and unify the size of things in the mouth a little bit. There we go. You can even smooth it out a little bit just to get that a little bit nicer feel to it. All right. I think my chat has frozen. Is anybody talking in it, or is it? No, okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, just gonna even this out a little bit. There we go. All right. Perfect. So I have a weird and wonderful creature here with tusks. Now, I'm in the unfortunate situation that I have angled my tusk very wrongly. So I know elephants' tusks, they hinge at the upper part of the jaw or the skull, but I like the look for this capybara that they're actually on the lower part, which means I need to move them down a little bit. And that's just a design choice from my side. And that is another point with, if you're concepting, if you're just making things up in ZBrush when you're sitting in it, you do have to make like design choices for what looks better. And I do think that this looks better for mine. All right. Yep. Yeah, just moving things around a little bit, just tweaking here and there. Don't be too afraid by asking questions. I am here to help you as much as possible. Maybe make these cheeks a little bit thicker. All right. And yes, I am just sitting very much and tweaking a lot because that is important to get things right. Because we're going to go in and we're going to start detailing this. and then we're going to hit a bump, or we're going to hit something that annoys us because, well, it's not supposed to be that bumpy, it's supposed to be relaxed. Hold down Alt and then use the move tool or the snake hook. Snake hook will also extrude in a straight line if you do that. So if I can show you here, remember every brush has an alternate function. So you can do like this if we want to. I would also, you can also experiment with using the snake hook brush as your move tool. I know some sculptors really like that, and other sculptors just prefer to use the move tool. It's really a personal preference thing. There's not a right or a wrong. There's just, if something looks right at the end, there's nothing wrong with the process. All right. So I think that's enough moving around on things for now. There's still tweaks here and there I would do to mine to make it look better, but I think you guys probably want to move along after 30 minutes of me talking about the basic shape of things. So let us do that. Much better. All right, so let's get into actual sculpting brushes. So the top here is called the standard brush. That's the one you're on by default. And the standard brush is the standard sculpting brush. What it does is it sculpts with like a smooth fall off, which sometimes can be very nice. Other times, it's not really what you want. I tend to use this to define like soft things like lips, nostrils, maybe a bit of ears, or if we have horns, for example, and you have that little rim around horns where they grow out of the skin, then the standard brush can be very nice. You can also use the standard brush just for standard sculpting. I can start going like this and creating a little bit of muscle definition here. And I can create my eyebrows a little bit better, maybe even carve out a little bit more eye space. Starting to look more like a warthog or tapir. Not too chuffed about that. And then just making a little bit more jawline. So, just like the snake hook brush, the way you prefer to do this is also very much like up to you, because right next to the standard brush we have the clay buildup, which is actually the one I prefer using most of the time. It creates a lot sharper effect. And the reason why I like to do this is a lot of the time you end up with some very happy accidents, and you can almost create these accidents as a plan, because this brush will create it with different techniques. So I'm creating a lot of these small hatches, which creates this layering effect. You can see here, these get like layered on top of each other. So that means it gets this bony ridge feel. So for eyebrows, if you want like this really gnarly dragon eyebrow, it's really good for it. Of course, vary scale by pressing S and then just dragging down. There you go. And its alternate function is taking away. So instead of adding new geometry on top of things, you can carve away inside it. There you go. And if you're like worried, yeah, but these look ugly, I don't like these, you can always smooth them out later with your smooth brush. But for now, they might be very nice to have just to define different parts of your sculpt, of your creature, things like that. Like I can use this to define the whole eye parts. These would be the cheekbones. I can remove this because I don't want a weird nostril tube going down the side of my face. This can also go like that, like that. Smooth that out because that's not important. Go. And because we are working with a rodent, we're working with a capybara here. You can actually use the clay tubes if we just have a fairly small brush and then go over the same place multiple times. You can see here. Ooh. Yeah, that's getting too thin. I can create like a rodent-like tooth protrusion, and we can always move this around, but now we have the geometry to begin with to sort of define how big this should be. There we go. And yeah, let's go back to our move brush a little bit and just shape these as you would a rodent's teeth. It's a bit rounder than expected. And then tiny brush, tiny brush, just do that little divot where the teeth split out. And then like that. Like that. Go. So now that brings a little bit more of that rodent capybara feel to it. And then we, of course, we can either go in with our standard brush or our clay buildup and start to define the gums in here a little bit more. And this is the inside of the mouth. Most models, you won't see the inside of the mouth particularly often. So I'm not that chuffed about getting this super correct. Of course, if you want to, go look up capybara gums. I don't know what you'll find. I hope it's good, but yeah, you can likely find some reference images and then use them to create your capybara tooth set as it should be in real life. Just go here.
You really love saying capybara, huh?
I do. It's such a fun word.
It is a really fun word.
It is a fun word. It's a fun word to say, capybara.
Yeah. Probably why they're so popular. I feel like they've gotten really popular over the past couple of years on the internet.
They did. I think it was
Mostly
the
as a
one with
meme.
like a mandarin on its head that got really popular first.
Might be. Yeah, I don't know the origin of the capybara popularity, but yeah.
Well, they're from the Amazon rainforest, if I'm not much mistaken, right?
Maybe. I just see them on TikTok, and then it's like, I don't know, a very memeified animal.
But they're cute, and like they're for being the world's biggest rodent, they're just so harmless.
Right. I mean, I don't feel like a lot of rodents are harmful, are they?
I've clearly never met a marmot.
I do not know what that is, no.
It's an angry rodent, and it's small.
Alright, so that's like a specific case.
Prairie dogs gave us the bubonic plague.
Okay, that's well, but they're not. Are they aggressive by nature?
I mean, they sound aggressive. Isn't that enough?
I'm not sure if that.
You're not sure if that counts?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that counts. Because I feel like if you're a
human being.
No, if you are judging a rodent's
Kill count?
no, I feel like kill
Kill
count
death
is
score?
unfair, but like aggressiveness or like uh, dangerousness on only their behavior. Usually rodents aren't that crazy, right? Like if you see a rat, rats they're just trying to survive, but they're not dangerous,
No. I think you're mostly right.
right? Like if you're talking about the cat family, you have tigers and you have
Cats.
cats. They're all aggressive as heck. Like that's an aggressive as family tree. But like rodents, I feel like are fairly okay
Yeah, I think you're right.
without
Rodents
knowing
are
too much about rodents.
fairly like unaggressive. They just have a high kill count. No.
Right.
I think you're right. I've what's it called? There's this documentary a while ago called Tiny Worlds. I don't remember where, but there's a mouse in it that like purposefully hunts scorpions, and it howls at the moon, and
Right,
it's
a
tiny.
mouse?
Yeah, it's a. I think it's called a wolf mouse or something like that.
Okay.
And they then also do howl at the moon. That's where they got their name from.
Sick.
And they do it to mark their territory. There are. I think in any family you'll find, or any like genus, you'll find something aggressive one way or another.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so rodents, they aren't very dangerous, or well, they can be dangerous. They're not very aggressive, but they eat their own poop, so
So do hedgehogs.
that's also wrong.
So do most dogs.
Yeah, but you can't say so do whatever.
So do
That
gorillas.
doesn't make it okay.
So do some human beings.
But that's also very wrong.
I agree with that one.
No offense if anyone here does it.
No, I'm just saying that is a very low bar. Horses do it. Goats do it.
I mean, sure, but
I think most other
That's
animals
also
than
really
human
dumb.
beings do it.
no, there's no way. Well, unintentionally maybe because they usually don't have a brain or a
No,
Well,
most
they
of them
do,
do it
but-
intentionally because, pre-digested food is calories that are easy to intake.
that is weird. This is
I mean,
a
that's why
weird
gorillas do it.
conversation.
They purposefully do it.
Who?
Gorillas.
Oh, that is also okay. Right.
Yeah. I am going to the zoo on Sunday with my daughter, so I need to be prepared for any questions he asks.
Like capybaras.
They actually do have
Capybara
capybaras
questions.
in there right now.
Do they or do they not?
So they're supposed to be in the New Australia enclosure, which is a bit weird. They're a different continent, but they are supposed to be in there.
Why are they in here?
I don't know.
I guess we drew the lucky straw and got temporary capybaras.
No, I think they're going to be a part of the permanent thing.
Oh.
Um,
Wait, have we gotten otters yet?
yeah, we have dwarf otters.
In the
Yeah.
zoo in Copenhagen?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Shit. I need to go. I didn't know.
I think they're called pygmy otters, actually.
I need to go.
Yeah.
What about red pandas?
Yes.
In the Copenhagen one?
Yes.
You're kidding.
No. We do have
Wait, I didn't know
pandas.
that.
Why not?
I mean, I haven't been to the zoo for like 10 years, so makes sense, I guess. But last time they weren't. And I remember that we only had otters and I think red pandas in one specific animal park, and that was in Jutland. So I went there at one point, which was great, and I got to see otters, which was amazing. But I always wanted it in this zoo, but I didn't know they
They
You
have
have them now.
pygmy otters, so they're not very big.
That's fine.
But they do have otters.
As long as they have otters.
So you need to go to the penguins, go around the sea lions.
You can't guide me as if I'll remember.
I can draw you a map.
Oh yeah, get a map. And
I
then
can
you
draw
give
you
it to me
one.
when you come back. Wait, does it say where all the animals are on the map?
I think it does. Yes.
Oh, look at that. They're so high tech. I can't wait for the day. All right. New kind of topic.
Yeah.
Technology. Okay.
All right.
I can't wait for the future when you walk into a park or something, and instead of being given like a paper map of whatever,
Oh, just download it straight to your brain. The
no,
PDF.
no. Okay, no,
and
that's
then
a
you
bit
have
too
to
far.
pay the subscription fee to Adobe to get the PDF reader.
Too far into the future. Too far. A step back, a couple of generations back, maybe. But that they just hand out free tablets.
I think you're gonna have to talk to Apple about that.
Don't you think at one point in our timeline that tablets will be so cheap to make that they would just hand them off?
No, I think they're gonna get more expensive.
Fuck. What about? Oh wait, am I allowed? I don't remember if we're allowed to swear.
We're not.
Are we not?
No.
I mean, technically, the stream isn't for kids. So.
No, it was just the guidelines I've been given. Yeah.
All right, no swearing. I am sorry. I apologize. That is on me. Mito. I am a 6th semester student. You can.
I've reached it, guys.
Oh no. All right.
I've done it.
Go to lecture mode.
Yeah. So this will happen every now and again. If you're sitting in ZBrush Core Mini, you will hit a limit. Now, this can be a little bit frightening if you don't understand what's going on, or if, because it's not going to tell you. It literally won't tell you what's going on, what it's going to do. So, you have a limit of 750,000 polygons. And when you hit that, it's going to say, pay us money or reduce. Well, we'll just say reduce, because let me show you here. Boop, 750. Or I can click up on the top, manually reduce it. 150. No difference. And that is because it will take all our density in here and it will say, this area isn't particularly dense. I'll take a lot of what's going on over there and put it where it's needed. And if it's not needed anywhere, I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to collapse it so that we get a nice and low definition map. So don't be afraid of these 3 buttons, low, mid, and high. Use them. Use them all the time. Because they will make it'll be quicker to use them yourself. You have more control over it. And ZBrush won't prompt you to pay the money, which is great. Yeah. As you can see here, I'm just using my clay build-up brush, and I'm using it to sort of outline muscles. And this is one of the things I like about the clay build-up is this will, and I understand if any of you guys know biology, I sound like an idiot. This looks like muscle fibers, right? So I do actually want to, just where would the muscles be on this? They would go down here, they would anchor here, so we can do like that. So this is now what's it called? It's called a flexor muscle, which means this is the muscle that when the animal wants to close its jaw, this is the one that gets pulled. So it's pulling from here to here. Free anatomy lesson as well. And then you have extender muscles, which will generally, for jaw, they'll go from here to here. And what they do is they open something. So you have your biceps, that's a flexor. It pulls your arm up. You have your triceps, that's an extender. It will open your arm out. And that is, if you're trying to make believable muscles and believable creatures, that is sort of those rules you got to follow. You gotta try and make things look as if they have a purpose, even though they don't have a purpose. And sometimes you gotta break all this and make dragon wings, which would pop off under the weight of the dragon. Like the attachment points on all dragons is just that tiny, that small. And if you're carrying 500, 600, maybe even a ton, or 500, 600 kilos, maybe a ton, and your connection point that to the wings lifting off, that's just gonna pop right off. I'm very passionate about dragons, by the way. I'm very, very, very passionate about dragons and dinosaurs. And I think most things I try and give an attempt at making. So yeah. All right. So almost an hour has passed. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, ask them. Please do. Because it can be confusing to do these things the first time. And if you're not receiving help, if you feel stuck, things like that, you're not stupid. These softwares, even in this boiled down version, they are very complex. And they are very, very difficult to get a hold of in the beginning if nobody's guiding your hand. Remember not to breathe when you drink. I'm apparently not the greatest at that. I do it a lot. So yeah, just creating a little bit of muscle fiber here. I think I'd like to have this be like a bit more of a shoulder muscle, so that would go up likely to a shoulder bone, like so. Let's make that a little bit smaller. I just have it just stick out like that. And I am very fast at this. Well, I'm not. There are other people who are a lot faster than I am. And the reason for that is not that we're better than you. A lot of the time it just comes down to I know what to do with these brushes. I have used them so much, played around with them so much. I have failed again and again and again at using them that I know what to do and what not to do. And no matter how much I wish I could tell you and you would get that into your muscle memory, that would be great if I could do that, but I can't. Sometimes you just have to play around with it for as much as possible until you get it. So I'm just gonna give mine a light smoothing everywhere. And as you can see here, this sort of fades out a lot of the rough edges, but leaves me with this nice bodybuilder, steroidy definition around the face and around the other things that we can then start building up on. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. So what we're gonna do, let us see. Yeah, let us just refine some things a bit more. All right, so we've been over the standard, we've been over the clay, we've been over the move and the snake hook. I will just show you the pinch brush because I want to use it to create like the tips here and a little bit there. The pinch brush does exactly as you would think a pinch brush should and pinches geometry together. Like so. And it does it fairly evenly, so it also works very nicely if you're trying to even things out a lot more. Like that, like that, like that. There you go. All right. So, and if you have places, like for instance this forehead, you can use it to create like nice swirly symbols. I would use it later in the process if I were to make like a really angry blood vessel that it needs to be there, but it doesn't need to be like super focused. Like it does need to be underneath the skin. You just use the pinch brush to create like the slightest bump of it, turn down the size, and then create even more definition on it. You see? That will create like a blood vessel effect. You can also use it for other things, such as scales, or if you want to create eyes, just sharpen this corner out a little bit more. If you want to create a really sharp jawline or a really sharp chin, this is what you do, and it works really rather well. Yeah. All right. So there we go. I hope my symmetry is still working. I don't think it is, but I hope it is. Apparently I've been doing a lot of things with asymmetry on. Oh well, that's fine. So, pinch brush pulls things together. It can be quite nice if you like that sort of thing. So we're missing 2 other brushes before we get into the projection brushes. The next one will be the /3, and this will create like slashes, cuts, grooves into your model. And this is actually quite nice because it means things like nose holes, very easy to define. If you want to create details inside your ear, also very easy to suddenly define. It can also be used to create grooves on places like you want a bit more wrinkles. You can create some close grooves. I think I would use a smaller size for it. And then think that wrinkles are generally layered and they're not like there's not a lot of patterns to wrinkles. They seem fairly random. It's just the way like your skin folds onto each other. So you want to try to avoid the human what's it called? The human urge to create patterns. Where we as human beings we really like creating patterns, but we also really like creating patterns we don't like. Also, we like symmetry, but we don't like things that are 100% symmetrical, which is why we will start with symmetry and then we'll go on to having less symmetry later. But to start with, we will have a little bit. I think I will have like some, I don't know what these are called, but I feel like dragons have them a lot of the time. So, all right. And then we'll do the same for the lower lip. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. And the main thing I really want to use it for is I want to create this grove between the teeth so that it really becomes rodent teeth. Like so. Like that starts to look a lot more like rat teeth than it did before. I'm not going to worry about the inside of them because there's not really a lot of foreseeable use for seeing the inside of a rat's mouth. If there was, I would make it, but then, you know, a art director would also tell me I need to make the inside of a rat's mouth. And that's actually one of those things in 3D. Generally speaking, if you can't see it, don't make it. And which then leads on to like another rule, which is like plan out, don't do more than you need to, because these things are very like take a long time to do as it is. Of course, it's quicker than doing this in traditional clay, but it still takes a lot of time. Which means we want to save on time, so if you don't see something, don't make it. And that actually also goes for modeling. If you're building a building, if you're modeling a building, don't build the backside of it. If you don't see it at any point in your movie, don't build the backside of it. If you don't see it at any point in your render, in your game, don't build it. It's just no point at all.
In animation, if you don't see the legs, don't animate them.
Yeah.
We like hiding things because we don't like overworking.
Yeah. All right. So that's the slash brush. It's very nice. And the last one before we get to projection brushes is the polish brush. Now the polish brush allows you to create flat surfaces. And it's also really good for teeth. Like when I say it's good for teeth, it's really good for teeth. So now we get a lot flatter surface on these bad boys, and we can do it on the side to like really emphasize that sharp, square, rodent teeth they have, like that. And, ooh, can't see the side from the bottom. Doesn't matter. We'll find a different angle we can work from. There we go. Just flatten off the top. And then let's flatten off the front a little bit as well. And of course we can do it to the tusks as well. Create a little bit of like fractured, or not fractured, fractal looking surface texture. So when we're sculpting, because we're not texturing, we're not coloring things, we can't differentiate things by color, and neither can our viewer on these things. So I've told you that these are tusks, but there's no way of seeing their tusks. So we need to make sure there's a surface difference or a texture difference. And I know that's a bit confusing when I'm saying we're not texturing it. Texturing generally refers to having a surface and then coloring it, but a texture can also be how something feels. Like my teacup does not have the same texture as a water bottle. These are different textures, they're different feels to our fingers, but they also look different. So we want to make sure that we can get these looks and we can get these feels by just making the surfaces of our model look different. So if we go flat, fractaled faces like this up here, it will read a lot more as a hard substance, as a hard material, than it will, like as you can see out here on the bottom, this just reads as fleshy as this. And we need these to be read as hard, so we got to change the way they look. And we can do that by flattening out parts of them so that they start to look as if they are either chipped or they simply grow out in a weird way. If it's a rodent, they will likely be chipped because they have rootless teeth that grow forever. There you go. Because now that and these teeth, they read a lot more as hard than the rest of the body does. The rest of the body reads as fleshy, the teeth reads as hard minerals. Let's just smooth these out a little bit. They're a little too extreme for my taste right now. There you go. And do the same thing on the bottom. And we can use the same tool if we want to define bony landmarks. So if I go back to my shoulder bone here, this is a little bit extreme. I left it like that on purpose. If I start to like harden this out, if that makes sense, if this starts to get more sharp angles than the rest of the surrounding biology, that's suddenly going to start looking harder. I don't want it to be completely hard because I do want skin to be over there. Like it's not comfortable having bones sticking out of your skin. But I do just want a little bit of it there. So I can create a little bit of a bony landmark. It's a bit extreme, this one, but that is hyperbole for understanding's sake. And the alternate function of it, just in case, the alternate function will, instead of flattening things together, it will take where you put down your mouse first and try to flatten things to that level. So it will actually go out. All right. There we go. Just that starts a little bit rougher. And those are our 8 sculpting brushes. And if we had more time, like if I was just sitting at home doing this, I would still be on the move tool and creating a silhouette. But we only have 2 hours and I gotta get through everything for you guys. So that's just like, understand that it doesn't go this fast. We spend a lot of time on it, generally speaking. And it is fun. It is super satisfying to sit and sculpt for many, many hours and then look at your result and go, ah, that's beautiful. And then you can take it on to the next part of the pipeline and you ask yourself why. But it is very nice to sit and work with ZBrush. It is one of those tools that it's instant gratification. Like, you see your results instantly. You don't have to work through the entire process. You see what it is you're making at all times. And that's just super nice as like a encouragement to keep on going.
While with animation, I feel like it only looks good at the end.
Yeah.
It's like you go through so much trouble on trying to make it work and make it look good, and you know it doesn't look good, and then it's like, all right, 6 hours in, now you've made this animation, you're sitting with it, and you're like, what happened? Why does it look good now?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. That's also satisfying in a sense.
And I feel like it's the same thing with texturing. It goes from having, I spent 4 hours and all I got is blobs of color. And now I spent 8 hours and it's, this is beautiful. I have muscle definition on something that was once flat, and so on and so forth. It's really is one of those things where you're going to hate it for more time than you love it. But when you do love it, that will just stick with you. All right. Well, there we go. So let's get into the projection brushes. And these are really rather nice because they're good for creating, well, in ZBrush Core Mini, they're good for creating the things we can't do. One of those things is, for example, eyes. So they'll project onto your mesh a set of eyes. And we have, I think we have 6 or 7 eyes to choose from in the different brushes. And I tend to go through all of them. Even if I found one I like, I will go through everything to make sure, well, one of the others might look better. Generally speaking, they don't. But one of the others might look better and I might want to use that one more. So I tend to go through every eye to check which one looks good. There's also a little bit of nightmare fuel in there, but that's just tends to be good fun for this. Like that. That's not good. Nobody liked that. All right. So yeah, and these all work by, you put down your mouse cursor, and where you put that mouse cursor down, it will then project a 2D image onto your geometry, onto your mesh, onto your dragon. It also means that it messes up when it gets in together. If you do it on very thin things, it will suddenly start turning up on the other side. And it does have some issues like that. Let me see if I can find a good place. Maybe here. No. Okay, definitely do it in here. Let me just get to the cheek here. There you go. You can see it on the outside of the cheek suddenly, and that's because the projection will go through your model and project on the inside. So it is important to sort of not go overboard, leave the areas where you want these projections fairly clear of details. You can always go in and add details later, but before we get to the projection part, we don't want to add too many details. The smaller your brush is when you project these onto it, the higher definition it will be. You can see I went from 500 to 790,000. Oh, 860,000 actually. And now it's going to reduce for me, which is going to be great. And I lost no detail. And of course there are parts here that aren't blending perfectly. We can go in and fix that. We don't mind. I liked I2 on chisel creature. So we also have a chisel shape. This will just be basic shapes for you. And chisel organic, which has 85 different projection maps that you can project onto it. And let's check. This is an eye. Do we like anime eyes on a capybara? I don't think so. Well, definitely not the first one. I don't like that one either. So let's go see if we find some other ones. Here, human eye. Human eye 01. Oh, that is just cursed, isn't it? That's not what you want to meet in Dark Alley. Like the rest of it I'm fine with, but not those eyes. Let's check this one. Oh, this one has eyebrows on it. I actually don't hate that. It doesn't have an eyeball, which is a little annoying, but I don't hate that for the capybara.
It makes it look like one of those big, beefy, kind of gorilla-like bold creatures from a lot of games. I feel like a lot of games kind of
they do have like this
that.
bruiser type enemies that tend to all have a similar look, like tusks, big shoulders, things like that. But I also lend into a lot of those design choices with the neck, for example. Like these big shoulders do lend themselves to that type of enemy. So I was sort of expecting it to be a big burly thing.
Oh yeah.
But that just makes it look tired. Yeah, maybe not. Let's try some gecko eyes. Nope. Let's try this. This looks like a tiger's eye or something. No. That's a green tree frog eye. And don't be afraid of playing around with the placement as well. Sometimes an eye just won't look good because of where it's placed more than because it's the wrong eye. That gives it a fairly tapier look. Nope, I think we'll go back to Chisel Creature and eye 2, and I'm going to use that one. Yeah. And of course there's a bit of cleanup, but that just means I get to go in with my clay buildup brush and just sort of smooth out these areas. I want to use a fairly small brush for this. Maybe even go into a lower subdivision first. And then just, yeah. Go through it. Add in back those wrinkles, that definition. We really want that. Really want the eyelid definitions. We can add these wrinkles in. We can even elongate them a little bit, so like really give it some bags under those eyes. Like I said, I don't mind the smooth brush. You just have to be very, very careful with how you use it. I know artists who say you don't use a smooth brush ever, but I also know artists who say it's a tool. It's not about don't use it or don't use it, not use it. It's about knowing how to use it. And that sort of leads into every 3D software ever. No 3D software is inherently better than others. Well, that's not entirely true. Specialist softwares tend to be better than non-specialist software at their specialty. Like ZBrush is a sculpting tool, so it will be better than all other. Like if you go into Blender, Blender has a sculpting mode. ZBrush is better than Blender's, but Blender can do it. Technically, Autodesk Maya can as well, but oh my god, why would you? And most other 3D softwares can. You're starting to get a lot of sculpting softwares that will like run on tablets and things, which is quite cool, I think, because that just really means you can do sculpting wherever you want instead of having to be in front of a big computer. If you can run it on a tablet, then you can take it into the yard. You can just do some lovely, lovely things there. Right. Here we go. And yeah. All right. So having added in eyes, having added in maybe a bit more baggy. Let's move down, give this a little bit more weight to it. So thin it up where it connects and then have it being heavy where the gravity would pull on it the most. That's a bit exaggerated, but I don't hate it. There we go. You can go back to our slash brush, add a little bit of slash and definition to these wrinkles. Here we go. Just these quick small movements. If I see anything I don't like, I'm gonna undo it right away. But until then, I'm fairly okay with this. I'm also fairly okay with like it being a little bit messy. Let's just blend this in a little bit. There we go. All right. So let's do some final things. So if you want to add like scales, right? It's a dragon. It can have scales if you want to. I would go in and I would use projection brushes for it. There is under chisel creature, there's scale 1, 2, and 3. These are the same scale, but like copied out multiple times. This one has a bit more variation to it. I think the idea is they're supposed to be the same scale, but yeah, just copied out many, many times. Like that. And Chisel Organic also has these animal scales 1 and 2, where I think 2 lends itself really, really well to be neck scales. And what you want to do with these is you want to start at the bottom and then layer them up from there. So here, here. If you're getting a lot of artifacting, like these places where you can see it being double, or here, then turn off symmetry. That should generally help you. We're also starting to get to the point where asymmetry is a good thing, because symmetry is good, but asymmetry is better. It just makes things a little bit more interesting to look at if there's variation and asymmetry to your designs. And that is very much like a thing you should keep in mind when designing things. Things aren't perfectly symmetrical. The human mind likes symmetry in things like faces. So if you look at my face, my eyes are sort of the same place, my nose and my ears and my mouth. My nose has actually been broken a few times, so it's a little bit crooked, but those are things that happen. But we do like that a little bit of asymmetry. My beard doesn't grow the same way on both sides. I have a bit more droopiness on my left eye, and these things just add life to a face, um, which means it gets a lot easier for us to believe that something is real if it's not 100% symmetrical. Because if it's asymmetrical, oh well, then it's natural, it's biological, and things like that. And it's all in the way that like the brain understands things. Yeah, I like that. Now we get here, and here, and here, and here. All right. And let's see, I think it's under Chisel Organic. So this is a capybara, right? And capybaras are fuzzy. And under Chisel Organic, we have animal fur 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, which we can actually use to create like fur texture on our capybara dragon if we want to. And it's just a good idea to mix and match these, and especially with fur, asymmetry is just so much your friend. You don't want to do this symmetrically. And because this fur is also like a little bit much stylized, you don't have to place it everywhere, but hinting at, oh, this has fur, will most of the time be enough to make the viewer understand, oh, yes, this is fur, this is a hairy beast. And that we sort of want to convey to our viewer. And there we go. There we go. And I'm fairly liberal with these. I think as long as you're not on the face, go heavier on it. And then when you get to the face, go a bit lighter on it, just because you don't want the facial definitions to be lost in fur. Yeah. So, there we go. Just gonna add a few last fur tufts here and there. We can even go in, and I would go for the lighter fur tuft animal fur 4 for this, and just add like a little thing there, a little hint on the other side to show the face still has fur on it, but it doesn't need to be as overpowering as on other parts of the model. And we're getting proper into asymmetry here, so I like to go back to my slash brush, and then here at the top we have this thing called set intensity. This will also control the intensity of the brush you're currently using. And I like to go in and, especially for dragons and for other creatures like this, just add a little bit of scarring from like battles, from combating their friends, their foes, knights, stuff like that. Just going in, adding some subtle scars, markings, things like that on the face will really do a lot for it, both also to like tell a story that this is a creature that's quite literally fighting, um, as well as going, well, it's it lends itself for the viewer to start filling in the story of what happened here, what happened to create these marks. Why is that stuck in alternate mode? There you go. And if a viewer of your art starts thinking about it, starts fantasizing stories that might create, or that this artwork might have created, is really good, because it means that that artwork stuck with them. It started giving them ideas, and a lot of the time that means a lot more. And well, actually, especially in the time of Instagram, where I think it's a little while ago I heard it, but like the average person will look at something for less than 2 seconds and decide if they want to look at it for any longer. So that means that's the time you have to catch people's interest. And then if you can catch that interest for even longer, the better it is. Well, that is if you want people to like your things on social media. There's no reason that that should be your goal unless you want it to be. You could also just want to be part of awesome movies. I respect that. Or games. And just want to create awesome art for that. Or create awesome art for art's sake. I think the old, I think it's called L'Art pour l'Art motto, which is art for art's sake. Don't create art for with the intention of it being used, sold, but create it with the intention of creating it. And again, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You guys should see my project graveyard at home. I have a terabyte of projects I did and then went, ah, this was nice, and never touched or opened again. So, and that is sometimes the process of personal projects. Of course, commercial projects are a bit different. You can't just not do them. If you do that, nobody's going to hire you again, and that sucks. So there's a little bit of consistency. Sharpening up that transition a little bit. Oh. Yeah. And if you are sitting with a bad posture, remember to get up, stretch a little bit. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do it soon. But yeah. So, any questions so far? Normally, so I plan these courses by the rule that 50% of the time should be dedicated to questions. Even more than that if you do online training. So if you have any questions, please do ask them, or I am running out of things to show. That also means if you have any questions about anything else, you are very much allowed to ask them. Questions about the education and about other different things, about 3D in general, about, yeah, about opinions, stuff like that. So, yeah. And yeah, Got a little bit of scratches there. Gonna scratchy scratch it here. Like fought something a lot smaller than itself and got some scratches on the noses. There we go. Maybe a little bit of, give it a little bit of one of them. There you go. There you get these very nice small ridges here and there. This is a bit extreme, so we can start just going with my pinch to make it less extreme if I wanted to. This will also double effect of making it a little bit less visible. I could use a smooth. I could use a smooth. So we're getting there slowly. So yeah. Okay. Maybe just create the gums around these tusks here. Probably be happy for something to hold onto its teeth as well. And there we go. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm just gonna start finishing up a little bit here. So there's not really a lot of reason to go down here. These are different materials that will like show off. Most of these are what's called mat caps, material captures, and they are set up to show you more shape than you actually have. The skin shader is a little bit better. It tends to show you a more realistic representation of what you got. The others show you more shape than you will actually have. So I think it is being recorded, yes, in the way that it will be on YouTube for a while. Either it will be up for like 13 days or a month or until the end of these boot camps, and then they'll be delisted, or they're gonna be up for a while. But we're gonna do more boot camps in the future as well. So yep. But one thing we do want to hit is this occlusion button. And you can up the intensity of that a little bit. It'll give you these nice dark shadows. Now let's center it a little bit. And then I want to pull your attention to the top middle of the screen here. So here we have 3 buttons. I'm going to talk about the right and the left one first, and then we'll go to the middle one. So the left one will export a image. This is Capifant. Yeah, place it on my desktop. Capifant. And this will export an image. So this is just a JPEG. It'll give us a little bit of option to like edit it, so we can crop it within ZBrush Core Mini. So we don't get a giant picture, but we get a little smaller one. And we can even change the quality of it if we want a lower resolution thing. I don't know why you would, but you can. And you can change the file size a little bit. Okay, mine's not allowing me to drag on that slider. It might be locked. And that will just give you out a picture, an image, directly from here of what you see. So the furthest one to the right is a turntable. This function has limited functionality, blah, 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 blah. Fine, cool. Press OK, and it is going to spin around, and now it's going to save an MPJ as a movie. And we'll just call this one Capifant Turn, like so. You can see it quickly there. And that means I can open it up here, and so there you have the Capifant as a picture, and Capifant turntable cannot be played there. Open with VLC. There you go. You can see it turning around. All right. So let me just get on for the next one. So last one we have is export for 3D printing. What this will throw you out is an OBJ. OBJ is just a, if it's an object, it's a 3D object, but it has nothing else on it really. And we'll do copy font. And this actually just allows you to take your 3D model out of ZBrush Core Mini and put it into Blender or Maya or whatever other 3D software you want. You can even take it and 3D print it. It does say export for 3D print. And it is very much like with ZBrush Core Mini, you can just export things for 3D print. You can use it for hobby stuff. There's no license. There's no real license limitations for that. I don't think you're not allowed to use it for like commercial products and stuff like that, but you are allowed to use it for personal things. So 1 second. There we go. So we do actually have a earlier participant who sent us this, which was the dragon they created during Bootcamp that they then 3D printed. There you go. Which is very nice. And yeah, you can also take it into Blender if you want to work more on it. Kimweise, if you want to make a sculpture with clothes on and to put that on special because I want to make bike riders, different positions with modeling and printing. So if you want to do that, I would make one base mesh for a person. And then I would do what's called rigging, which is setting up the skeleton within the person that will allow that person to deform, because that means you just need to do all that work once, copy it out for the next one, then you can pose it differently each time. If you want to do clothes on a model, there are two ways of sort of doing that. You can either sculpt it in ZBrush, but you need full ZBrush for that, or you can simulate it within Blender with the cloth modifier and then set the character or the human person body as a collision. And that way that will allow you to create different poses with different clothes on and stuff like that. And that is that I would model the clothes because a lot of the time ZBrush things get a little bit heavy, and it's not always necessary to do that if you can simulate it and get sort of the same result. Yes, I answered the recording question, but maybe you have a more clear answer than I do. How long time will the recording be available?
Okay, so when it comes to all the recordings of these sessions or these streams, it's all on our YouTube channel, so you will always be able to find them. They will be uploaded videos that will be on the channel until we delete them ourselves, I'm pretty sure. So you will always be able to go back and watch them again. That also includes all our previous videos. We have a decent amount of streams that we've done before this, with sculpting and modeling and texturing, animation, all that good stuff. So if you want to go on a grind, yeah, you're able to.
Yeah.
And go through everything if you want, or just get some inspiration. And that's always possible.
Yeah.
Also, check out our YouTube videos that we are uploading. We're uploading every Monday and Thursday. Right now, we're uploading a lot of interviews that we also have on our other social medias. with cool things like people from the industry and students and teachers, staff. And yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Check it out, and then remember to check out. I think we have open house on the last week.
The last Thursday of May.
Yeah.
We have open house, so you are able to come and talk to us and listen to what our school is about, if you're interested. And you can ask and talk to students and teachers and staff and everything in between. Yeah, so it's usually every second month, the last Thursday in that month. So May, and I don't know if we have one in July. No, right? No. So this is the last one before next year.
Yeah, before the next year.
Cool. So yeah, open house on the, I don't know what date that is, but last Thursday of May. Cool.
Yep. Yeah. And Kim, I see you're asking, you want to take a paid course. Where can I do that, Blender or ZBrush? We have a paid Blender course that will teach you basic modeling, basic texturing, and just most of the basics within Blender, how to do those things, basic animation, and also has a bunch of talks about how the industry works with people in the industry, things like Kim Hain, who won an award for his movie Drømmebyggerne, and also with our headmaster Christian Bellon, who has a great bunch of insights into the movie industry. We'll be bringing that. We have Adam Mays, who has, I think last time he told me, he has worked on over 256 games and shipped at least 60. Which is quite, apparently, very impressive thing to be able to say. Because I was listening to the artist Nick Carver, who's worked at Blizzard on 2 different projects, none of which got shipped. Riot on a project didn't get shipped, and yeah, no, it's brilliant. So he was talking about, yeah. So there should be a link to what we have that's called 3DE. 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 Yeah, 3DE. There's only one D in it. No? Yeah. Oh. So yeah, and that's called 3D Essentials. And that will like teach you the basics and stuff like that. If you already, yes, it's on the school website. It should at very least be. I was able to find it, so there. So there's not a lot of ZBrush on there. If you want ZBrush, I would honestly go to Sean Forsyth. Yes, 3DE. I'd go to Sean Forsyth. His things are a little bit more advanced, but he's brilliant at what he does. And I know this is absolutely useless for somebody who doesn't know where to begin. If you are already playing around with 3D and you feel like you have a fairly good grasp at it, I would honestly just like, well, what do you think you'd need to do? A lot of the time when you're a 3D artist, you need to be able to look at a problem yourself and figure out how to solve it. Because if you're being paid to solve that problem and you're going to somebody else for help, then your boss is going to ask you, well, why am I paying you for this? So both for your own enjoyment and for, the lesson it will teach you, play around with things yourself. And my students hate when I tell them that, but it is honestly one of the most valuable things you can do when learning different project or different softwares or different workflows. Try things out. If it still doesn't work after a few hours, not 20 minutes, but I'm saying multiple different hours where you're trying things. Yeah. Yeah, I'd go to Sean Forsyth or anybody who will show you cloth simulation in 3D. The principles are sort of the same, but some of the names might change on the functions. It's really more about you knowing how to set the textile strength on different different cloth parts than it is anything else, and then it's just waiting time while it simulates. So yeah. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, you're just gonna. Yeah. Well, then get into Blender. Blender has a wonderful cloth sim system that you can work with. And yeah, if nobody else has any questions, I think we'll just wrap up 10 minutes early. Like I said, we have most of this planned out for more questions. With less questions being asked, we can finish up fairly early. So, and then we will say goodbye for today. And thank you for joining us. All right. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. So, thank you, and I hope to see you all next week, where we will be introducing to Blender. We will be building our first object, and we will be going through every function slowly so that you can learn it from scratch. I have been Chelfe. This is my wonderful assistant Mito, and it has been